Welcome back, friends. In today's session, we will know about compound epithelium and nervous tissue. So let's start with the briefing of simple epithelium.
We have done about this simple epithelium, classifying it into squamous, cuboidal epithelium, columnar epithelium, ciliated columnar epithelium. And we have also listed the examples where you come across all these important tissues in our body, as well as in other animals. The left out is the glandular epithelium. This glandular epithelium, you can find the tissue in the exocrine and the endocrine glands. And the tissue, it is responsible to release the secretions. You know, the exocrine and endocrine glands you come across inside the body. Exocrine glands, they secrete out enzymes, whereas endocrine glands, they secrete hormones. Okay, so secreting these different secretions is under the control of glandular simple epithelium. So when we see this glandular simple epithelium, you will find that the cells, they are of cuboidal shape or they are columnar shape. Let me show you the picture. Here you go. The glandular epithelium, you can see how the cells are, and they are arranged on the basement membrane. This is the actual slide view, and this one, it is the sketch view. Okay, the slide view, actual, when we see it under the microscope, this is how the real tissue it looks like. On the left side it is, and on the right side you can see it is the sketched view. And I will also show you the sketch of this. Here it is. This is the basement membrane, and on the basement membrane you can find the cells are arranged, which are column shaped. If not column shaped, it is cuboidal shaped. So the cells will come like this. Here is the prominent nucleus for these cells. Okay, then there are specialized cells which are found in between these cells, which are responsible for releasing some additional secretions. You have seen in the picture. I will put these cells in this picture also. And here I'll draw the cells like they are embedded between these columnar cells like this. Okay, the cells are a bit spherical in shape, or they are oval in shape. These cells, they are identified as goblet cells. This is very important. Make a note of it. Goblet cells. These cells are also called as chalice cells. The cells are also called as chalice cells. They are also called as mucus cells. They are also called as mucus cells. So these are the different names given to these cells, which are found between these glandular cells, the actual cells. And these goblet cells, they are performing again important functions. And the function is already written here. That is, they are secreting out mucus. They secrete out mucus. What is mucus? Mucus, it is a jelly-like fluid which is released by these cells. And this mucus, it keeps the surface, the surrounding surface or the lining of the different parts moist. Okay, so mucus, it is used as a moist fluid. It moisturizes the linings of the different parts. So we can expect this fluid in the different parts. Like I will give you one best example to understand where you can find the mucus in excess. You will find it in the respiratory tract, like in the nasal cavity. So respiratory tract starts with nasal cavity. So in the nasal cavity, you can find the mucus is secreted, and this mucus, it keeps the nasal cavity moist every time. So it prevents it from getting dried. And this mucus, it also helps in, absorbing the dust particles, absorbing the germs which are present in the air. And with that, the germs, the dust, it gets trapped. It is helpful in trapping this dust and the other material which passes through. So in that way, it is very useful. This mucus is very useful, which is found in the nasal cavity. That's number one. Number two, I'll give you the next example, which is so important. It is esophagus. Esophagus also, you can find the walls are lined by mucus. And also you can find it in the stomach. So in stomach also, it is so useful. How much it is useful, I'll tell you. In esophagus, mucus is released, and when we are swallowing the food, this food, it is pushed from top to bottom, and the esophagus, it shows peristalsis, right? So that is one. Number two, mucus is released within the esophagus. So with this peristaltic movements, the food, it passes from the starting point of the esophagus when we swallow, and this food is pushed with the help of this mucus. So as this mucus is present, the food slips from the top of the esophagus into the bottom of the esophagus, and from there it slides into the stomach. Okay, that's the functions of mucus in esophagus. Now coming to the stomach. Now in stomach, what we find is that the acid is released, that is HCl is released, which is so strong, and it can damage the walls of the stomach when the digestion is taking place. So this mucus, it helps the walls of the stomach, and it protects the walls of the stomach from getting damaged, which can be caused by this HCl. So if mucus is not released, or if it is released limitedly, then there is possibility that the walls of the stomach, they can get damaged. Okay, so that is very important functions. And there you see the cells which are releasing this mucus. They are the goblet cells, or they are called as the chalice cells. So I'll just take you back to this picture and show you the goblet cells which are present over here. You can see these cells which are marked. So the cells will be releasing mucus in excess. So that is about the glandular epithelium. So that's what we know under the simple epithelial tissue. Now coming to the compound or stratified epithelium. And you know that this epithelium is differentiated from the simple epithelium by the number of cells arranged on the basement membrane. So here it says that the cells, they are arranged in a row. The number of rows of cells are more compared to the simple epithelium. So in simple, it is only one row, whereas here it is more than one row of cells arranged on the basement membrane. That is the reason why the tissue, it is called as stratified. Stratified means complex. It means compound. So there you have the classification of this tissue, where the tissue is classified into 4 different types. We have stratified squamous epithelium, stratified cuboidal epithelium, stratified columnar, and the last one, it is transitional epithelium. So let us try to find out all these tissues. With the help of examples, we will better understand, and what is their functions. Also, we will try to find it out. So the number one is stratified squamous epithelium. Let us try to find out what is this tissue. So on the basement membrane, you will find there are cells arranged. Listen carefully to this. The cells are arranged. The first row of cells in this tissue, they are found to be columnar shaped, slightly columnar shaped cells. You can find they are arranged in the first row. Then the second row, you can find there are other shaped cells. Now here you can see the shape of the cells, it is differing now. The first row, it is columnar. Now the shape of the cell, it is reduced to its size. Then at last you will see that the cells, they are of squamous. Now what is squamous? You know very well. The name itself, it indicates, it gives us a clear pronunciation. That is, the cells are rectangular in shape, or they are square shaped. Okay, so the first row, right at the bottom, you can see the cells, they are column shaped. The middle row of cells, they are polyhedral shape. Polyhedral shape, that means they can come in different shapes. Then the last row, that is the third row, that's the top row. This row, it is with the actual shape of the cells. That is, the cells, they are square shaped. Hence, the name of the tissue, it is called as the squamous epithelium. Okay, now there you see the arrangement of the cells. They are arranged in more than one row, and then based on the functions of these cells and the tissue, it is classified into two different types. So we can come across two different types of this stratified squamous epithelium. One, it is known as the keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. That's number one. Number two, it is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So you please make the note of the tissue. Please complete the name: keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. And here it is non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, so we have two different types of these tissues. So let me tell you about these tissues, what they are. Quickly, you can have listening to this. Keratinized stratified squamous epithelial tissue. This tissue, it is different from the non-keratinized in a very specific way. And this specificity, it is of the presence of a special protein which is present or found in this tissue. And that protein, it is listed in this name itself. So here you can find in this name itself that protein. And that protein, it is keratin. So I'm circling it over here, keratin. Yeah, you must be familiar of this protein name, keratin, and you also know where this protein is present. And with the help of this, we can understand where the tissue it is found to be in excess. Okay, now this particular protein, it is said to be insoluble. It is an insoluble protein which is fibrous. So this is how we describe this protein. It is an insoluble protein which is fibrous. So dense fibers are present in this protein, and these fibers, they are accumulated together and they are found in these cells. Okay, so these keratin proteins, fibers, they get accumulated and they are found to be in these cells. So the cells, they group together, they form the tissue, and that tissue which has cells with this protein, it is known as the keratinized stratified squamous epithelial tissue. So what is that protein present? It is the keratin protein. Okay, now where is this tissue found in excess? So you will find this tissue in skin. So our skin is made up of this specialized tissue, that is keratinized stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Now you will be asking me, where is this protein present, and where can we identify in some of the organs? Like for example, you take hair has the skin has hair, and this hair, it has keratin protein. It's made up of keratin protein. And you can also see there are other structures like nails are present, there are spines, there are hooves, and there are other structures found in the other different mammals as well as in other animals. There also you will find that these structures, they are made up of the stratified keratinized squamous epithelial tissue. So this protein, it takes part in the formation of hair, it takes part in the formation of nails, it takes part in the formation of hooves. And with the presence of this protein in the skin, it is absolutely important and very essential that this skin, it is so well developed. Even sometimes this particular tissue, with the help of this protein, specialized protein, it is able to show molting. it is able to show molting. That means the old cells, the old layer of this cell, it will be replaced by the new layer, right? So the old cells will be completely worn out. They will get completely terminated out from the body, and the new cells will be replaced. So here, this particular tissue, it is considered to be very important, which is also helpful in replacing the old cells with the new cells. That is all because of the presence of this specialized protein. Okay, now coming to the next, it is the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. This means that non, it means absence of keratin protein. So this keratin protein, it is absent in the cells. So the cells are devoid of this protein. That is the reason why the tissue, it is called as non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. The structure of the cells and all, the arrangement, it remains the same. The only difference is the absence of the protein. Okay, so that is about the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelial tissue. We'll list out some of the examples where you will come across this tissue and the functions. Okay, the function is the tissue, it protects the surface. Now there are different surfaces which are located in the different parts of our body. So it protects the surface from drying. That means preventing it from drying. The surfaces, they don't get dried up. They will be always kept moist in condition. So it is all possible because of this tissue. So what are the different surfaces that we will try to list out here? Number one, you can come across this tissue in the cornea of eyes. In the cornea of our eye, you can come across this. Then even in the buccal cavity, where you can see that our buccal cavity, it is always kept moist in condition. Yeah, it will be always moist. Only under stressful conditions, buccal cavity, it gets dried up, but otherwise it will be kept moist. So this is all possible because of this specialized tissue. Next, I will give you one more example. It is vagina. So vagina, which is a part of reproductive system in females, this particular part also, it will be kept wet in condition. It will never get dried up. And the another portion, another part which is always kept moist in condition, it is the nasal cavity. So we can experience this by ourselves, that our nasal cavity is always kept wet in condition. There is always mucus lining the walls of the nasal cavity. So with these important examples, we understand that how important this tissue is. And that is the first tissue, the stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Proceed further without wasting much time. We'll move on to the second one, stratified cuboidal epithelium. And what you find is that the basement membrane, it has cuboidal shaped cells, which are arranged more than one row. Okay, the cells, they are arranged in more than one row, and that you will come across in the some of the organs like the ducts of the sweat glands, then the female urethra, right? So these are the examples. Couple of examples. You can add more examples like the conjunctiva of eyes. Conjunctiva of eyes. There also you will come across this stratified cuboidal epithelium. Even you can come across this particular tissue in the female urethra. Yeah, so here it is written female urethra. Not in the male urethra, but in the female urethra, you will come across this stratified cuboidal epithelium, and the function is, it is helpful in secretion. Okay, so that's the second tissue. Next is stratified columnar epithelium. So here it is all simple now. So we'll just briefly make out what type of cells are present, and we'll list out the examples. Okay, stratified columnar, the cells are pillar shaped or column shaped, arranged on the basement membrane, the number of rows of cells are found to be more, and you will come across this type of tissue in larynx. That's one of the part, larynx. Then mammary glands, epididymis. This is epididymis, epididymis or epididymis. You can write on MIS, epididymis. Okay, so these are the examples for stratified columnar epithelium. Moving ahead, we have this transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium, it is made up of columnar shaped cells. And when this epithelium, it relaxes, okay, when the epithelium, if you see this epithelium, it has a basement membrane and cells are arranged on the basement membrane. So when you see this tissue resting, so when the tissue is in resting state, you will see that the cells, they are flat. Okay, the cells are flat when they are resting, when they are relaxing. This is how the tissue is. But when the cells are in action, when they are not resting, so what we find is that the cells, they change the shape. They were flat before, over here they were flat, but now you can see they have expanded, and with this expansion of the cells, it looks as if there are many rows of cells. So when the cells, they get expanded, when the tissue is in action, the number of rows of cells, it looks as if they have increased. Okay, they have increased. But when the cells are resting, when the tissue is in resting, the number of these rows of cells, it appears to be less. This is the difference. So as there is a change taking place, as there is a difference happening when the cells are in resting stage and when the cells are in the action stage. So this difference gives the name of the tissue as the transitional epithelium. Transitional means a change, okay, a shift. So what is that shift? From relaxed state to the stretched state. And when the cells are in relaxed state, the number of rows of cells appears to be less. When the cells are stretched, the number of rows of cells appears to be more. Okay, so this is why the tissue, it is called as transitional epithelium. And this you can come across in a very suitable example, that is urinary bladder. Urinary bladder, which stores urine. So when the urine fills up in the bladder, this urinary bladder, it expands, right? And when it expands, it appears like, this number of cells have increased. Now, when the urinary bladder gets emptied, that means when the urine is eliminated out, this urinary bladder, it contracts, it constricts, right? And it shrivels in such a way that when we see this urinary bladder, it shows as if the number of the rows of cells have declined, right? So this is what happens, when the urine is present and when the urine is absent. So in this way, the tissue, it is absolutely located in this suitable example, that is urinary bladder. The other example is ureters. Even in the ureters, you will find the tissue, it will be keeping on fluctuating with the number of rows of cells appearing less and more. So here in ureter also, you can see the flow of urine. Right, the urine is flowing through these ureters. So because of that, the transition can be seen, and you can see the functions, perfect functions, and the function is it will be helpful in allowing the flow of the liquid. Okay, so urine is liquid and the urine is flowing through the organs. So with the help of this particular tissue, the flow of this liquid is controlled. So here we have these four important compound epithelial tissues with the shape of the cells, arrangement of the cells on the basement membrane, location where they are found, and also the functions. So we will do next nervous tissue. What is nervous tissue? So nervous tissue is also made up of specialized cells. They get differentiated at the time of the development, and the tissue, it is responsible for the transmission of the impulse. The tissue is made up of specialized cells, and these cells, they are classified into different types based on their functions and their locations. Okay, so how many types of cells are forming this nervous tissue? We all know what are the types of the cells present. So we have the classification in front of us. It's very clear now that there are 4 different types of cells forming nervous tissue. Okay, out of these 4 different types of nervous tissue, neuron is the one of the cell which is helpful in transmitting the impulse, transmitting the stimuli, impulse or stimuli, from the sensory organs to the brain, and from brain to the sensory organs. So the to and fro movements of this impulse will happen, and it will be all carried out by this neuron. Whereas these neuroglial cells, they are the ones which will be supporting the neurons. Neurosecretory cells will be the ones which will be secreting the secretions. Okay, and these neurosecretory cells, they are found specifically in the endocrine glands which are associated with the nervous tissue, that is nervous system, right? Then coming to the last one, the ependymal. I will write down that also, all the functions I'll write down, but just orally I'm telling you so that you get an idea. Okay, what are these cells? Then the ependymal cells, they are found lining the inner walls of the cavities which are present in the brain and spinal cord. And this ependymal cell, it will be helpful in the formation of, or in the secretion of, the cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, so these are the functions. I'll write down on the screen now. I have written the functions of neuron first. That is, the neurons are helpful in transmitting the impulse. So please write down completely. I've just written impulse here. Please write down transmitting the impulse, helpful in the transmission of the stimuli. That's the another term, stimuli. Okay, stimuli. Stimulus is singular, stimuli is plural. Neuroglial cells function is that these cells, actually they are circular in shape to oval in shape, right? They are present around the neurons. They support the neurons, and the support, it is provided in the form of insulation. It's just like, you know, we have a cable, we have a wire where you find the metal wire inside and the plastic is present around, right? So this metal wire is nothing but neuron, and this plastic insulation which is present around is nothing but the neuroglial cells. Neurosecretory cells, these are special cells, specialized nerve cells, I can say, specialized nerve cells. And these specialized nerve cells, they are found in the endocrine glands which are associated with brain, particularly brain. There are no endocrine glands associated with the spinal cord, but with brain you will find. What are the associated endocrine glands? Like, for example, you take hypothalamus, that's number 1, so important gland. Number 2 is the pituitary gland. Number 3 is pineal gland. So all these important glands are there associated with the brain. These glands, they are made up of these specialized nerve cells, what we call them as the neurosecretory cells. They are the ones which are helpful in secreting the endocrine secretions, that is the hormones. Ependymal cells. Where are these ependymal cells present? First, these ependymal cells, they are located absolutely lining the inner walls for the cavities like brain and also the spinal cord. The function is to secrete, to produce the liquid or the fluid which is found in the brain and the spinal cord, that is CSF.
That's all for this session, friends. Thanks for watching.